called Moses to him and said, "Go quickly and leave my land. Take everything with you, all your animals in your herds. I want you out of Egypt." And so the people of Israel gathered together at the city gate with their animals and their belongings. With Moses at the head of them, the people of Israel finally walked to their freedom after many years of slavery. And even today, the people of Israel remember that night of the Exodus from Egypt. And they call this the Feast of Passover.
The Exodus from Egypt. Full of joy, the Israelites set off on their long and arduous journey back to the land of Canaan, which God had promised them as their new homeland. He went ahead of them as a bank of cloud during the day to show them the way, and as a column of fire at night to give them light. But because God wanted to show the Pharaoh just how powerful he was, he said to Moses, "I want to harden the Pharaoh's heart. The Israelites should rest by the seashore. That will make him believe that they have got lost in the countryside, and he will come with his soldiers to bring them back to Egypt." And so the people camped by the seashore, just as God had ordered it. It wasn't very long before the Pharaoh started to regret that he'd set the people of Israel free. He wanted to make slaves of the Israelites again. So he assembled a mighty army with many chariots and thousands of soldiers. He rode at the head of his army, and they went hunting after the Israelites. Towards the evening, as they saw all these chariots and soldiers in the distance, they became very afraid. What should they do now? The sea was in front of them, and behind them the Egyptian army was getting nearer and nearer. They started screaming and running around in panic. "What have you done to us?" they swore at Moses. "What are we doing here in the desert now? Oh, if only we had stayed in Egypt. We would rather be slaves in Egypt than die in the desert." Moses tried to calm the people down and said, "Don't be afraid. Today is the last day you will see the Egyptians. The Lord is fighting for you. Just you wait and see." And God asked Moses, "Why are they shouting so much? Tell them they should get ready to leave. Pick up your staff and hold it over the sea. The waves will part, and you will be able to cross safely to the other shore with dry feet." So Moses held his staff over the water and saw how God sent a strong east wind, and how the sea parted before them. The water towered to the right and left of them like two walls, and the seabed became dry land. Now the Israelites could cross to the other shore without getting wet. The Egyptian army was already close on the Israelites' heels, but the Pharaoh's cavalry and heavy chariots became stuck in the deep sea sand. In the great confusion of horses and chariots, they couldn't get any farther. By now, the Egyptians were finally convinced that God was on the people of Israel's side, and they wanted to turn back. But in the morning, the last Israelite had hardly reached the other shore when God said to Moses, "Stretch out your hand over the water." So Moses stretched his hand out. The wind suddenly turned and blew the mighty walls of water down onto the seabed, burying the entire Pharaoh's army under a mass of seawater. In this way, God rescued the people of Israel from the Pharaoh's military might, and now they really believed in him, and they named Moses their leader. Everybody celebrated with a great feast with music and dancing. Full of joy, they sang with Marion, Moses and Aaron's sister. They sang a song of praise to their Almighty God. "Sing a song for the Lord, for he is mighty and full of majesty. He is a powerful fighter. He threw the Pharaoh's chariots and soldiers into the sea." After celebrating for a long time, the Israelites set off on their way to Mount Sinai.
The 10 Commandments. After a long and exhausting journey, the Israelites finally reached Mount Sinai. They set up a large camp of tents at its foot and rested after their strenuous travels. Moses, however, climbed the mountain to talk to God, and God called to him from the peak of the mountain. "The whole world is mine. Tell the people I want to make a covenant with them, and if they obey my commandments, I will forever be their God and make them a truly special people amongst all other people." Moses went down the mountain and told the assembled Israelites what God had said. They all agreed unanimously. "We will follow God's commandments." Moses told God the people's answer, and God said he should prepare them for his appearance and everything else they should do. "On the 3rd day I will come down from the mountain in front of the whole people. They should all fast and pray. Nobody must climb the mountain, for I have made it holy." And Moses went to the Israelites and told them to do everything just as God had ordered. On the morning of the 3rd day, the whole mountain was shrouded with a thick, dark cloud. Lightning struck many times, and the earth rumbled with the thunder. The Israelites became afraid and hid away in their tents. But Moses calmed them down and led them to the foot of the mountain. Then he climbed the mountain and knelt down before the dark cloud, and God spoke to him. "I am the Lord your God who brought you out of Egypt and freed you from the land of slavery. You shall have no other gods before me. You shall not make any images of me which you worship, and neither of anything in heaven, on earth, in water, or under the earth. You shall not misuse the name of the Lord your God. You shall keep the Sabbath as holy. You shall labor for 6 days, but on the 7th day shall you rest. For this day is dedicated to the Lord your God. You shall respect your mother and your father, so that you will live long in the land given to you by the Lord your God. You shall not murder. You shall not commit adultery. You shall not steal. You shall not give false testimony against your neighbors. You shall not covet your neighbor's property. You shall not covet his wife or anything that belongs to him." Then God carved 2 stone tablets out of the mountain with lightning and wrote the 10 Commandments onto them with his finger. He spoke to Moses, saying, "Take these stone tablets which I have engraved with my 10 Commandments and tell them to the people." And Moses stayed on the holy mountain 40 days and 40 nights.
The dance around the golden calf. The Israelites had been waiting for more than a month since Moses had disappeared into the great cloud on Mount Sinai. They grew impatient and started to doubt God again. So they went to Aaron and said to him, "Your brother still hasn't come back, and God has disappeared with him. Who knows what can have happened? We want a new God, one who will protect us." Aaron tried to calm the Israelites down and begged them to wait a bit longer. But he too had started to doubt God and couldn't understand why Moses had been gone so long. The Israelites became more and more unruly and demanded of Aaron, "Make us a God that we can see and can pray to. We don't even know if the other God will ever come back." So Aaron decided to do what the people asked of him. He commanded the Israelites to bring him all their gold jewelry and had it melted into a golden calf. When the Israelites saw the golden calf, they cried, full of joy, "This is our God, the God who has led us out of Egypt. We want to worship